Welcome back to Out of the Rut. I'm X.
Billy.
And I'm Ron.
And today we have Jude with us. Say hi, Jude.
Hello, Jude.
Hello. So, Jude, you do a lot of different things. But before we get cooking and before we start the interview, tell us just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of go into the history of how we know each other and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm Jude. That's Hey Jude or Saint Jude or whatever Jude you want to go with, but it really is Jude. And I am currently, I'm working in Virginia, and I work as an assistant estate manager, and I tend to work in a field that allows me to use a lot of my skill set. And though we'll talk about how we met, I have done a lot of different things over the course of my life. And I would say I'm getting to be an expert in pivoting. And I thought that might be something interesting for us to talk about. So I really appreciate that you asked me to come on, and yeah, let's talk.
Awesome. So real quick, just so you guys know how I met Jude. So this had to have been a couple of years ago now. For someone who I've never actually worked with, I feel like we've crossed paths multiple times in various different scenarios. But when I was so this was when I was at I was still at, which we'll bleep out. If you name a business or anything like that, just a heads up, we're going to bleep it out, things like that. So cool. You can be as open as you want. We're still working at, but you know Erin, how she has that like side business where she like pimps me out. I say she pimps me out, but she pimped me out. She pimped me out at an event where I was teaching some line dancing for like a corporate event, a real hootenanny. Yeah. But I met June. It was the day I rolled my ankle. How I was at a boot a couple years ago. Yeah, it was at that event that I had met Jude. But you were kind of managing the event, right? You were kind of like overseeing the event.
Yeah. You know, one of the millions of things that I do is I do contract work for these DMCs, and Chicago has a ton of them. It's a great way to pick up, extra cash or whatever. And usually it's an event like that. It's a corporate event. They're having a party for their, folks, and they do all kinds of different things. And this one just happened to have a dinner, and then they wanted someone to do the line dancing, and there you were. And what's fun is that you meet a lot of great people doing DMC work. It's people like us, people who have done a lot of different things, who will just jump in, high energy. I know you have a performance background, which is where I come from, and that being able to find places where you can use that and have a good time and get paid. Yay, amen. Heck to that. That's a big deal. And that's how, that was so funny because you just network. You're always networking. Even when you're not networking, you're still networking. You just have to kind of tap into that. It took me a long time to get that, like forever. So I'm almost 100 years old, so you have to remember that.
GD, rounding up to 100.
Rounding right up to
100. She saw me doing some psycho shit, just teaching line dancing, and she was like, have you ever thought about cruise directing? And that was sort of how the friendship blossomed. So awesome. So we'll get right into this, Jude. First thing I always like to ask before I send it over to the guys for some superficial questions, because they actually have no idea about your history or whatever, and figured we'd kind of cover all of it. I always like to start with this one because it's in the namesake. Can you talk about a time when you were maybe stuck in a rut and you were like, you know what, I really want to make a change, and maybe how you found yourself getting out of it, the steps you took, or maybe you're still in it and we're actively trying to figure it out?
I think it's a lifetime of multi-ruts, we'll call it, which I don't think is unusual. I think the more I go along, the more I find that there are, I think, finding out what the reasons for the ruts are. That's where it gets important, and it helps you to discover what you really want to do. I always say to people, I think that working, as you're going along, you find out more about the things that you don't want to do. Each experience I've had in work teaches me something that I do want to do, but more often than not, there'll be multiple things that I'll say, yeah, I don't want to do that, or I wouldn't do that, or I wouldn't want to treat someone that way, or blah, 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 blah. There's a whole laundry list of things. And that is so important. And nobody teaches you that, right? Like nobody says when you're in university or whatever you're doing, nobody goes, hey, by the way, when you're out there in the working world, pay attention to these signs, think about how this, nobody tells you that. And then you're sort of stumbling through and you're like, am I crazy? No, the answer is no, you are not crazy.
You start to think you're the problem. You start to think you're the problem versus like the system or what you're doing.
And I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm not sometimes the problem. Sure, that's a real possibility too. But that comes into self-awareness, right? Like there comes a time when you start to see commonality, and I actually right now I'm in that. But let me rewind and actually answer your question. I'm an over communicator, in case you didn't know.
Love it. In an audio format like a podcast, talk away, Jude.
I am an over communicator. In my course of study, in my college track, I really loved theater. I was a theater kid. I danced and did gymnastics and all of the things. So I very early on got excited about performance, and I really wanted to hone in on that. So in my undergraduate program, I started focusing on classical theater. I wanted to do Shakespeare and Greek tragedy all day long, every day. Then I found out that nobody's doing those things because, well, frankly, we're all living in Greek tragedy anyway, so why would we have to go and see it?
True that. True that.
So there was a time where I had been working pretty steadily. I'm a really proud member of Actors Equity. And for those of you who might not know what that is, that's the Professional Actors Union. And I was working and, doing okay by the measure of that, I suppose, but not really progressing in an income level. And when you're working as a performer, as I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, it's a contract basis, and you don't ever know what your next job is. So it's a lifestyle of gigging. And I just got to a point where I knew that I was not going to be able to sustain myself by gigging, right? I loved, and it became harder for me to love what I was doing because there was I had so much pressure on myself to be able to make enough to pay rent, folks. Like I didn't come with a trust fund. I didn't come with it. I didn't have that. And that's okay. A lot of us don't. And we find that we have a skill set, and very much so in performance-based work. I think you have a wide skill set that you don't realize. Once again, no one tells you. No one tells you that you don't need a theater degree. So I'm going to let the cat out of the bag right now on this communication.
Do it.
You do not need to have a theater or performance degree. What you need is a marketing degree. You need to be able to market yourself, market stuff, market, and maybe possibly a creative writing sideline. So, because you have to write for yourself eventually. Anyway, that's a whole different story.
For what it's worth, as someone who has 2 years of a theater degree, could not agree more. Could not agree. Yeah. I found myself like in the same audition room as everyone else I had gone to school with who ended up having the degree. It didn't put me any sort of leg behind or leg up above them. No. It's
nope. You don't have to have it. And I mean, it's so much more. Gosh, I'm going to say something, and I you can bleep it out. But
I love Jude Day's hot takes. Give it to us, Jude.
Right, here it is. The most talented people I know do not work in that realm of in performance. The most talented people I know are not the people that get hired the most. The people that get hired the most are moderately talented and really fucking amazing at marketing. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the truth. I'm not, I don't mean it.
And more often than not, kind of come from money. To be honest with you, they come from money also.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's something to again, I really felt it. It was like, oh my God, how am I gonna survive off of what I'm making? I mean, this was really right at, I was living in New York at 9/11, and that was when the first big change came for me. So I'd been pounding the pavement. I'd just finished a national tour. I had a great little apartment in Astoria with my roommate from the national tour. I'm going to auditions. I'm doing my thing. I'm temping at an investment banking firm at World Trade Center 5. And I am out of town on the weekend leading up to 9/11.
Holy crap.
Wow.
I know. It's wild. Prior to moving to New York, I had committed to house managing for a theater that's no longer in existence in Chicago, but they were doing a touring production of Charlton Heston and his wife doing love letters. And I wasn't supposed to come in until the 12th. They wanted to rehearse early. I came home. It was there was a lot of universal stuff going on with that. So anyway, long story short, at that moment, I'd already been feeling all that angst about, how do I make a living? Is this going to, am I going to be able to really sustain myself? And suddenly this massive event that was just like the ground just, literally and figuratively it opened up, right?
Yeah.
And couldn't be in New York. So I went back to Chicago. So this is like the first big pivot for me. And I would I would say to you, I was working professionally as an actor. That was my first career, like my first career track. I came back. I was like, what the flip am I going to do? And I literally just said, you know what? I'm just going to get a job, just any old job in an office. I can do administrative, basic stuff. I can do this. So that's what I did. I applied to some places and I ended up at a development company, a really tiny little boutique real estate development company run by a bunch of creatives right away. Like it was that sort of, the universe kind of got me in the right direction. And I don't want to sound woo woo about anything because I do believe that, that we get to where we need to get to if we don't block ourselves. But, I didn't have any expectations. I just walked in the door and said, yep, I will answer your telephones and type your letters. And that was back in the days when fax machines were still a thing.
Yeah, throwing it back. Dude, there's still places who use fax machines.
Doctor's offices.
Doctor's offices being one of them.
You know what's funny is when I was at work recently, someone's like, "Hey, can you just fax that over to me?" And I almost forgot what that was.
you had to AI that shit real quick. Be like, "Yo, what is faxing?"
You have to have a landline to have a fax. That's what's frightening.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, to think we still have landlines anymore. No, that's awesome. No, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, roughly how old were you when you made that shift from performing into like kind of just your first just general administrative job?
I would have been, let's see. Let me just do the math backwards.
Carry the 3.
I would have been in my early 30s. Yeah. So, it was when you start really thinking like, how is this going to play out monetarily? I've always had to support myself. So I just, that line of thinking was a strong pull for me. Right.
Yeah. The longevity of financial stability and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Pulls a lot of people out of performing. It kind of did me, like, and I didn't even make it to 30 performing. I made it to 24, and I was like, yo, I'm really tired of being poor. This sucks.
It does. And I think a lot of people really don't, there's such a giant chasm of that tiny little speck of percentage of people that make astronomical money. There's nothing in between that and the regular working. I can't give you exact numbers, but I can tell you at the time that I stopped working, the highest contract that you could get, a production contract in Actors Equity, I'm working on Broadway, which I was not, was I think maybe $1,700 or $1,800 a week. Okay, you're taking 10% out for your manager, 10% out for your union dues. You're paying, this, that, and the other. And you're paying $4,000 a month for a closet apartment in New York. Like the numbers don't add up, right?
Yeah.
Like it's still the same. I don't, I haven't worked in equity contract in quite a while, but to do that, to really do that, you have to have some sort of supplement. I mean, whether it's,
you got to have another skill. You got to have another skill outside of just performing.
And honestly, performance skills, now I can say this now, I didn't understand that really ultimately what performance is it's communication, right? Yeah. That's what we do. We communicate. We want to communicate a story. We want to communicate. And that skill in and of itself is a skill that now, flash forward to this time, people don't have it. And we're losing it. Because of these little lie boxes and all of the things that are taking us away from actually having to communicate for ourselves, that's going away. So now you've got this group of people that know how to do that. We can look at each other eye to eye, hello, and communicate. That is something that is going away. And so that skill set is very valuable. It really, really is. And I think that's something that, you can parlay into a lot of different fields.
I agree. It's also something, and this will be the last thing before we get into the actual good stuff of why we brought you on. But I also feel like for it being such a niche skill that a lot of people don't have anymore in terms of putting themselves out there and communicating in a physical sense versus just through a laptop or a computer or a phone or whatever. It's it's funny because as important as it seems those skills are, especially in today's workplace. There are people who literally hire people just because they can talk in front of people and not feel weird or look weird. It's not a skill that often is appropriately compensated for how important it seems like a lot of businesses seem to hold it. I use our industry and the fitness industry as an example. It's we desperately need people who can present and public speak and communicate, but we don't super duper pay them what they're exactly worth to do those skills, especially when not very many people have those skills anymore. So it's just kind of a weird backwards, oh, well, it's not that hard. You're just talking in front of people. And it's well, bitch, you do it then. Come on, you do it then if it's such an easy skill, but clearly you brought me on to do this.
Yeah. I think it's very difficult to monetize it. Right.
Yeah.
But it's actually not that difficult to monetize it because if you want to just water it down to sales, you take a person who can communicate and present and engage, they can sell. I could sell anything. You could sell anything. I remember thinking even in my 20s, I had people ask me, please come, work for us, sell this, do that. And I was like, oh, I don't understand. This is more, people are, you only make money if you sell. And I got really nervous about that. Holy moly. If I had been smart, I could have sold, I don't know. I could have had my retirement.
Hey.
Amen.
Damn.
I could have had some retirement. Now, no, my retirement is, hello, I'm your Walmart greeter, Jude. It's so nice to see y'all today.
Seriously, though. Seriously. Yeah. So what I kind of told the guys a little bit about you there, Jude, because I don't, and still don't know very densely as far as your work experience goes, but I do know cruise directing was kind of a big part of what you've done or still do. I think you don't do it so much anymore, correct?
No, I came off my last ship in 2022. What was last year? Yeah, 2024.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think I met up with you right after you had done your last contract.
Yeah, it was January.
Yeah, so most of the questions that we probably have are more geared towards cruise directing specifically, but we'll definitely kind of go into what you do a little bit now. You know what? I'll let Ron or Billy kind of start us off with the first question.
Yeah,
fire away, gentlemen.
Yeah. You've obviously sound like you've done a lot of things. So, what were some of the things that inspired you to be a cruise director?
Well, I'll tell you that like many things in my work life, it came from someone else seeing something in me and saying, hey, have you ever thought about ... That has happened to me countless times. In fact, I think outside of, I always loved theater and performance, but I still had to have someone say, I think you can really do this. So it's, I would tell you my entire work life has been based on someone else seeing something in me and saying, you can do this, or this might be great for you. And it is somewhat hard to be objective about ourselves, isn't it? In the workplace. And I think we get tuned into a kind of a narrow channel. But particularly with cruise directing, I had been, we talked a little bit when I came back to Chicago, and I went to work for a real estate development firm, and I did that for some time. And then I went on the private side, which is what I do now, but we'll get into that. While I was working in Chicago in corporate America, I would just dabble in theater a little bit here and there. And I got cast in a very, it was kind of a famous long-running show, still running. And this was maybe 2000 and, oh my gosh, 4.
It was Cats, wasn't it?
What show was it?
It was Cats.
No,
it's always Cats.
not.
You were rocking the unitard, Jude. It was straight up Cats. Knew it.
I have never rocked a unitard. No.
You're so lucky.
Yeah.
I've rocked many a leotard unitard in the day.
Laugh when I say this. This is going to tell you. I mean, I told you I was 100 years old. It was Menopause the musical, and it ran in. Yeah.
Got me.
Yeah. I laughed too. I said, are you kidding me? No, I'm not doing that. Yeah. And I did it on and off again. And a cat, the highest cat contract you can get with Actors Equity for 7 years. Because of that show, I will have a an actual retirement check from Actors Equity because I paid so much in.
Yo, shout out to Menopause the musical. Shout out.
You bet. Shout out to Menopause the musical.
And women can't say menopause is only negative now.
Yeah, heck yeah. You know what? Menopause is paying Jude's retirement. Yeah. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's going to give me $300 a month when I hit 65. But no,
menopause now.
No.
Never thought I'd be jealous of not having menopause.
Exactly.
No. So I'm working full time and doing 8 shows a week. Now, mind you, it was hard, but I'm in the show for many years, and I was doing an out of town run, and I had this really does lead to something. I had an understudy who is a fabulous singer, performer in her own right. She lives in Chicago. We've now been friends for 100 years. She was a cruise director who was taking a break to see if she wanted to try to, do the performance thing for a little bit in Chicago. So there we are. We're getting to know each other. And she looks at me one day and says, hey, have you ever thought about being a cruise director? You'd be great at it. And I was like, what? What is that? Literally, that was my response. What? On a boat? You live on a boat? So she was like, no, it's a ship, not a boat. Thank you, Patty. I still call it a boat sometimes just to be obnoxious. But she saw something in me. Cruise directing is a very specific, you need a skill set. You need to be organized. You need to be flexible. You need to be quick on your feet. You need to really be an amazing communicator. It's a tough gig. But anyway, I was like, I don't think so. That's what I said. I don't think so. So I went on with my little world, and one time I went out with her. She invited me to come along. One of the things that cruise directors do get to do is sometimes have guests, friends on board. So I took an Alaska cruise. I'd never been on a ship, really knew nothing about that whole thing. And I remember coming off of this 7-day cruise in Alaska and thinking to myself, holy shit, it's like 24/7. You are never off. There are 8,000 people who know who you are, and they are at you. Like they are full on. And so I was like, I don't think I'm not ready for that. So I kept working, went on the private side in estate management, property management. And I don't know, 5-6 years later, I just was having that moment that you talked about at the very beginning, the moment of feeling that I was in a rut. I felt like I was just doing the same thing over and over and over, and I needed to be in a different environment. That's what I knew it. I felt it. I just couldn't get excited about what I was doing. And so I literally called up the company that I had initially interviewed with, and they were like, oh yeah, none of those people work here anymore. And I was like, okay. All right. And then I resubmitted all of my things. I didn't hear anything for a while. And then all of a sudden I got a call one day and they were like, yeah, so we're going to be in Chicago next week. And we still have all of your materials. And we're just going to invite you to the callback. And it was like 48 hours later. And they were like, and you need to prepare an entire 7-minute presentation to put on camera. And then we're going to have you do a bunch of other stuff. And I was like,
no pressure. Okay.
Yeah, just whip out a video real quick. Yeah, it shouldn't be that bad.
Which literally goes back to my earlier statement of you got to learn how to write for yourself. Now, I was a person who did not know. I had no idea that I could even write at this point. So I go to the audition. I literally call my friend, the cruise director. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. They want me to put a presentation together about a tour package. I don't even know what they're talking about. So literally we met at, what is that restaurant where the waiters yell at you?
I don't know the name, but I've always wanted to work there. If I ever got back into food and beverage, I'd want to work there because I would love yelling at people about their food.
Yeah, so we're there. I'll think of it in a second. We're down there all night long. I'm taking notes and writing things, and we're trying to piece something together. And I flew by the seat of my pants. And I got in the audition, and I just went for it. I really did. And I was lucky enough that their top cruise director was moving into a more corporate oversight role, and he was hiring the new cruise directors and training them. And again, saw something in me and said, yeah, you'd be great. And they hired me. And it's very unusual to become a cruise director without having done other roles on board a ship. And for very good reasons. I'm just going to say that it is not an ideal scenario to go in as, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone to go in. To start as a cruise director, because a cruise director has two different jobs. You have the job of the cruise director, which is managing the entertainment department and being the face and voice of the ship and da. But the second job and the more important job actually becomes being a crew member. That is an actual job unto itself. And you have a tremendous amount of safety responsibility and a whole bunch of other things that no one ever tells you. So, right. Yeah.
Until you're in the thick of it.
That was a long answer. But yeah, so somebody said to me, here, and I just kind of put that in my back pocket. And then when I was in a spot where I really felt, I will say to you that I've gotten comfortable with pivoting. Honestly, if someone asked me if I wanted to write a book about it, the pivot point is what I'd love to call it.
It's actually a pretty cool title.
I mean, that's a sick title.
Yeah, the pivot point.
It's actually, there's a moment that happens inside me, and I don't believe I'm special at all. So I believe that it happens to other people. There's that moment when you're just like, this is not satisfying me in the way that I need, whether it's fiscally or spiritually or it's not challenging you. And then you have to listen to that voice inside yourself, because if you can throw a lot of shit at yourself that, but if I don't have a job for 5 weeks, or if I don't do this, what's going to happen? You can really spiral that out. But as I'm sure we all have many times.
This cruise director is kind of like a 2-person job, or you're like a crew member, but also engaging with the people on the cruise itself. What does a typical day look like normally when you're on the ship?
I'm so glad that you asked me that. And I just want to preface, I'll tell you every detail, but I loved my time in the chair. I loved my time being the head of an entertainment department, because it was a bit of a full circle for me in that I had done so much management on the corporate side and been an entertainer on the entertainment side, that those two things came together really beautifully for me in that role. A typical day on board the ship as a cruise director starts at about 6 a.m. Wow. And it also depends on whether you're in port or it's a sea day, what time the general manager calls the first meeting of the day. You usually start out your day. I would go to the office as early as I could. I usually woke up about 4:30, and I'd get into the office, because the one thing that people probably would not think about is the sheer amount of administrative work that you have to do. Now, some cruise lines, in fact, my first cruise line that I worked for, we had an administrative coordinator within the department, which was awesome, because I did not have to file all of the reports. But later I went to a luxury cruise line, which I was on a premium first and then a luxury cruise line. The luxury cruise line, smaller ships, smaller staffs, you do everything, and you don't have any support staff. It's just you. So I would roll in early in the morning. I would make sure first, right off the bat, that I knew what we were doing that day. At the end of the previous day, I would type up literally a list of what my day was going to look like. When I needed to be here, what announcements I needed to make. Then I would have to go backtrack and make sure that I had those announcements all printed out. Now, once you've been in the chair for a long time, you start to get to a point where you can actually go, you hit a button. This is the great thing. It's like, it's literally like a high school principal's microphone with buttons. That's exactly what it's like. I'm not kidding. Literally, I would press a button and it goes bong, bong, bong. And then I have to take a breath, because you have to wait because it's a microphone. And then you say, "Good morning, everyone. This is your cruise director, Jude. Welcome to the port of blah, blah, blah." And off we would go. But for many, really even 7 years in, I was still typing. I would type up all of my own announcements for everything, because I felt very, as a performer and certainly as a communicator of important information on a ship, I felt like I wanted to, there wasn't going to be, I went
So, welcome aboard, guys. We're going to do some stuff, safety. You didn't want that? You didn't want that?
I'm a little OCD about that. But anyway, so I would do all that. So early in the morning, first things first, I would be making sure that I had all of my materials together for the day. Usually then we would hit the meeting. I would try to run through either the crew mess or wherever and grab something to eat. And then we are usually, not only do you get to be part of the entertainment department, but on most ships, the entertainment department, because from ship perspective, the entertainment department doesn't work very much. Comparatively, the beverage department or the housekeeping department, those folks are working nonstop for 19 and a half hours a day. Wow. So when I've got a team of 14 performers who do 3 shows over the course of a 7-day cruise, and the rest of the time they are running off the ship, going to every port, doing whatever, you can imagine that there's attention that has to be waylaid somewhere. So we would oftentimes be responsible for helping out the excursions department. So the next thing I would do is, let's say we arrive at 8 o'clock. At 7:30, I'm down on the platform. I've made the announcement. I let people know when the ship is clear. That's a big thing, too, is really communicating a lot of the technical stuff. And then that goes for about 4.5 hours in the morning. By the time that's done, I've got 3 more meetings. I've got to, handle any HR stuff that's going on. And let me tell you, in the entertainment department, there's always something going on with human resources.
Imagine.
Yeah, those performers, man, they're walking HR nightmares.
Listen, and I'm going to tell you something. The band members, not any better. I love my music. God love you, but woo, that was just really, we did 3 hours last night, and we are being asked to come and put up Christmas decorations. No, we won't do it. Oh, drama. The drama. So you do that, which takes me to mid-afternoon, and then I'm running back to the office trying to do more administrative work, getting my things together for trivia, which is like the most important thing on the ship ever. And the cruise directors are usually responsible for running the trivia if they don't pawn it off to any of the cast members. But I'm not saying anything about whatever. No, I did every single one of my own trivia. Thank you very much.
Shout out.
And I loved it. I loved it because it's engagement with guests. And usually it's kind of a core group of people that do it. And so you really get to know them over the course of a cruise. Then I would quickly grab dinner, change into my formal or evening wear. Oh, yes. Let's not forget about the fact that you have to change outfits 6 times in a day. Wow. You're running around all day. 4-inch heels because you're a female and you're expected to look like that. And then it's 6 o'clock and I'm off to either host a dinner or host an event or that's pretty. And then it's right to the theater for the first show and then engaging with guests on the floor in between. And then the second show, which I take on and take off the show. Plus you have to be cruise directors have to be in the theater for the duration of the show. Yes, even after seeing it 782 times. It's because if there is any kind of an emergency, you're responsible for being there and getting on the microphone and doing those kinds of things. I've actually had a fire in the theater during a performance.
What?
So to rewind back to my earlier statement, your emergency function is the most important job you have on that ship, period, end of sentence. You have to know what to do. And they drill us continually. And that's something that nobody ever tells you when you're going to work for a cruise line. We would have, I would tell you in a week, we would have 2 full drills of the ship. And that means everybody, all crew, everyone on the deck with the lifeboats doing whatever they would, arrange something specific each time. And then in addition to that, we would have 5 or 6 various smaller drills throughout a cruise. I mean, it's no joke. And fire is the number one disaster at sea. So we really, really train for it. But I could tell you stories about the emergencies, especially the medical emergencies. That's a tough one, but apparently in a past life, I was a drill sergeant, so I do pretty well.
Yeah. Once you got the job, because we've talked about this a little bit, what kind of steps did you have to take, like from the interview process or the audition process to you getting on the boat for the first time? You mentioned when we met a while back that there's a lot of doctor visits you have to go do and do all this stuff. Like, can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, for sure. So once, it's about a 6-month ramp in, to be honest with you. First of all, you are required to take courses. This is maritime law. They're called STCW. It's seafarers. I don't want to give you the whole moniker.
Seafarers something.
I'll say it. Yeah, it's all about seafarers. So you actually have to have this training. You have to be recertified every 5 years. It only lasts for 5 years. And there are only very few places in the U.S. where you can get that. In fact, I think it's only 3. There are 2 on the East Coast and 1 on the West Coast. You know, there are certain countries where seafaring is really a part of the cultural vernacular, if you will. The UK has a very strong maritime program. The Italians, very strong.
A lot of those coastal countries, I imagine.
Yeah, and so they have more availability, more places that you can go to get all of these things done. So in the U.S., it's not like that because, quite frankly, on a ship, on a cruise line, you will really only find Americans. You will find very few Americans working in the cruise industry, and there are many reasons for that. But you will really only find them working in the entertainment department.
Interesting.
And it was very unusual. And I always say, I'm sort of the trifecta of crazy. It's very unusual to find an American female 3.5 stripe manager out there.
Interesting.
You know, there's the wonderful Captain Kate from Celebrity, who is a celebrity, and she's amazing, and she's really been a proponent of getting more women on the navigation deck, because people don't really realize it's a phenomenal, that navigation. Had I known about that earlier, I would have totally been game to go to Mariner School and become a navigation officer. It's super interesting, and it's a great career. So, but to go back to your question, so you have to get this training, and it has to be done at an approved place. And that training, first of all, requires you to physically flip over a lifeboat, a life raft, to jump from a very high diving board in these full, like a rubber suit. I never experienced anything like that. I'm so claustrophobic. I thought I was literally going to die.
I'll be honest. I was not expecting you need to dive off of anything for this process, but keep on trucking. I'm curious now.
Yeah. You have to have fire training. I had a week-long fire training where you are suiting up and you are putting out a fire. It is in a controlled environment, but you have to wear the respirator, put all of the gear on. And let me tell you something, that gear is heavy, and you're in the middle of Florida. Look, it's hot.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay,
Ew, the air is just all thick and sweaty and balmy.
To really meet some requirements that not everybody can do. So if you don't pass all of these courses in the STCW training, you are not given the certificate, and you cannot go to sea. You can't get a maritime passport. You can't get, they're called Seaman's books. That's something else that you have to get. And that all depends on which, flag state your ship is from. So I've worked on a couple of different flagged vessels. I have a Dutch Seaman's book. I have a Bahamian Seaman's book. I have a Marshall Islands Seaman book. I mean, it's crazy. It's kind of great. They're all sitting in a box.
For lack of a better phrase, there, Jude. It seems like you have a lot of seaman books.
I do.
So many. Sorry, it was. I couldn't help myself.
It's sorry. Okay. I really set it up for you, and I did that on purpose.
Okay, cool, awesome. I'm really glad we broke the ice that way, because these guys have been holding back laughter ever since you said it the first time, and I've been really trying to up the professionalism of this podcast. Guys are really making us look bad.
Tried.
Now everyone's just going to go, oh, I know, go on a boat. See the men, seamen, yes.
So much.
Talk about dating on board. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh God! I imagine that's a whole other beast in itself, though. Like, you're stuck with these people for.
That was definitely one of my questions.
It's really
we're gonna ask.
Okay, so we have to go back because we didn't even get to the fun part.
Yeah.
STCW training. That's that. And at the end of that, you have to take, it's like a 40-page test.
Mm-hmm.
and you have to pass it at like 97% or above.
GD, 40 pages and 90%?
Yeah.
Ew.
I will at least say that it's mostly multiple choice, but again, it's safety. You are training for a disaster. That's what.
Yeah, you're ready for anything. You're trying to be ready for anything.
When and if it ever happens, well, we do know that it did happen, right?
Yeah.
The Costa Concordia is a huge, blaring example of what could really happen out there. And not only did I have to do STCW training, but for my first line, which was Holland America line, I had to go to England and take a crisis management course. So that was a week long in just outside of London. And it was in Dover. That's where it was. Yeah. And this is the best part. When I went was in the middle of, this would have been 2014. There was some sort of a pandemic happening at that time. And I don't remember which one it was, but no one was flying. Like no one would get on an airplane. I don't remember what it wasn't like. It wasn't monkeypox or whatever. It was
probably swine flu.
Yeah, it was something. Anyway,
flu, I remember that one.
I flew to London on a, ginormous plane, and there was no one on it. There were like 6 of us.
And that's like most people's dreams.
Ebola.
No.
Oh, Ebola. It was
Ebola,
Ebola.
yeah.
Ebola.
Probably. Yeah. But I'm going for my crisis management, come hell or high water.
Heck yeah. Whole plane. You had a private jet pretty much.
No, it was so scary.
Not fun.
Like, it was really weird.
I can imagine that being the same feeling as like an empty hallway at a hospital.
Yes.
Ooh,
yes.
Very,
and
very eerie.
It's like you've died and you're just waiting to see someone. You don't see anybody.
You're in transit to the afterlife. Oh, God damn.
What's a better way to go, though? Just like,
crossing the river Styx. The river Styx. But at that training, it was so good. That was a really, really wonderful course. They literally played not what the general public would have seen, but they actually played tapes from the Concordia disaster. And you could, the chaos that you could see, and I'll never forget it. There was one person and only one person on that ship who had a megaphone. It was a female. I guarantee you she was from the entertainment department. And she was like, ladies and gentlemen, you get your ass over there. You need to go back to this area. Do not move. Do what we tell you to do, because no one was listening to anyone, right? It was
it's all full panic, probably.
Yeah, so you really got, it was a great course, and it was a great lesson in how do you manage people in a crisis. And then after that, I had to have, and this is something that you have to have every 2 years. It is the maritime physical, and it is 30 pages long. Jesus. It requires 12 vials of blood. It requires a lung and chest scan. It requires questionnaire upon question. This is literally the last time I went in to have this done, and they have to choose where you go. You don't get to just go to your regular doctor and hand him the stuff. So there are these in Chicago. There are a couple of their workforce medical centers, meaning police, fire.
Got it.
Like some of the plants send their people there. Like the big mechanical plants.
Got it. For some reason, I thought you meant shrubs and trees, but plants as in like power. Yeah, those type of plants. Got it. I'm back.
No, so I walked in. This was the most recent one that I had, which was in 2022. And literally, this doctor, those places are a nightmare. They just are churning through, and they're getting paid by whatever company is paying for these medical, things. And these people coming in, those of us who are coming in, our lives hang in the balance. This is the moment where if something isn't right on your medical, like there's
you wasted time. You're not going anywhere.
You don't get to go.
Your ass is staying on land. You ain't going anywhere.
Which is amazing. Because when I look at people on the ship, and I think to myself sometimes that are working on the ship, and I think, how did you pass your, well, anyway, literally this doctor said to me in 2022, he goes, "Oh my God, are you the fucking captain of the ship?" I went, "He did. He literally did." And I went, "Well, kind of."
You do more than the captain, arguably.
He went through the whole thing. He was checking things off, and he was like, he looks at me and he goes, "Yeah, you're fit." Okay.
He's like, "Jesus Christ, let's skip pages 1 through 29 here. Okay, let's just get right to the end. Let's read the last chapter."
I mean, yeah, like it was really, he said, "I'm going to tell you honestly, this physical is more in depth than I do for the FBI. This has more on it than the FBI." And I was like,
I don't know how that.
The FBI.
I kind of don't know how that makes me feel though. Does that make me concerned for the FBI more, or does that is that just overkill for the cruise directors? I'm like,
that sounds like you're going into the military. Like that's what it sounds like.
And I think that it's a total scam, and I'll tell you why. Because one time I got extended on a contract, and it was going over the expiration date of my medical. So when that happens, you cannot be on the ship. They will kick you off the ship wherever you are, whatever port you're at.
Wherever you are. That's nuts.
To be honest with you, now they've got it regulated so much that you can't even start your contract if there's not a long enough tag on the end of it, that's the way it should be.
Yes.
But I had to go.
Just all right, off the boat.
Yo, here's a little lifeboat. Yo, you rowing your ass back to the States.
Here,
throw a little floaty.
Here's a dinghy. Throw the bitch in the dinghy. No, I was in another country, and I won't say which country, but they got me off the ship and they got me to a medical facility. Because honestly, they can't function without the fucking cruise director. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So they get me to this place, and literally, I peed in a cup. Nice. And they gave me an eye test. Read the third line from the bottom, and that was it. So literally, it was a test, and to make sure my vision was okay, and they re-upped my medical for a year. And I was like, what is this bullshit?
Yeah, you're like, yo, this took 10 minutes. What do you mean I got to do 30 pages on any other given day? That's insane.
That would have made me question the last one. Like, why'd you want all my blood for no reason then?
Yeah.
No, because when you do it in the US, that's how it rolls.
Yeah, they're selling your blood somewhere there, Jude. It's in a freezer somewhere.
I mean, it was just, I didn't love that. But it is what it is. It's the regulation. And so all of that goes on. So you're constantly waiting. You can't even get a contract until all of those things are done. And trying to get a coordinator on the cruise line end, the person that's supposed to be, your coordinator is a nightmare. And then you get to the point where you've gotten a contract, and now you've got to wait for them to get your travel together. Even more of a nightmare. So that's the part of the job that really getting your credentials together and getting to the ship. That's really the biggest nightmare.
I was going to say, would we classify that as the worst part, or are there other parts that are a little equally dicey, if not more?
You know what?
I figured we'd front load this podcast with all of the bad things about it, and then we'll transition to some of the good stuff.
No. It's you know what? The lifestyle. Another reason you would never find a lot of Americans working on a cruise line is because we don't work like that. We don't work 24/7. It's a floating city, so you are on, and there's nowhere for you to escape to. And I will tell you that crew quarters are not great.
Yeah.
They're just not. And even myself as a 3.5 stripe officer, I would have what we call a shoilet, which is a shower toilet. It's one little tiny that you can bear. I can't even really fit into. It's called a shoilet. Yeah, I mean, it's not. That's my word for it, shoilet.
The funny thing is, I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about just based off that name. So we're locking in shoilet, guys.
Yeah, shoilet. You are standing on a toilet in order to take a shower.
Nice.
And the water's just pouring all over the little tile floor into a floor drain. I'm not kidding. But the chief engineer, who lives in the bottom belly of the ship and wears overalls all day, has a full-on marble floor-to-ceiling bathroom with shower and tub, and yeah.
The homie's living like a king on the boat. Let's go.
Not even shower. Come on, like seriously.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I had that conversation with my corporate superiors. I was like, "What is this?" Literally, there are no places to hang clothes for women in the cruise directors' cabins. They're all built for men because the majority of cruise directors out there today still men.
Very skewed male dominant.
It is the entire industry is very misogynistic. I'm not saying you can choose to say that that's negative or not. I don't care. I'm just telling it like it is.
It is tough because the standard is for women that, like, you know, there's just, like you said, like, you have to dress up differently. Obviously, you dress up differently than men are required to dress up. But like 9 times out of 10, it's more garments and more pieces, and to not have any of the closet space, like, that's kind of crazy.
No, it's only for suits. It's this.
I can rock one suit for like 30 days straight. Ain't nobody know the difference. I just change the shirt underneath and call it a day.
Listen,
but ladies do not have that luxury. They do not.
No, we have a whole different scale we are expected to achieve. And also, I would say this, and I can't, I've said it before to people, and I think there's this, oh my God, she said that. I will. Yes. I think that cruise directors, it's better for it to just be a man, because women are scrutinized in a way that men are not. And I mean, they can be brutal.
I was gonna ask that too. Like, how often on a ship, like, if you did wear the same garment, did people like, didn't you wear that yesterday? Like,
oh no, I would never. You could never do that. I remember when my trainer was with me, he was like, "You'll be expected to be wearing, 4-inch heels every single day. Oh. So you better break them in before you get here, or your feet are gonna bleed.
Damn,
this is just the way." And I was like, okay, but what I'm saying is that the guests, they scrutinize. And you know how I know this for sure? So one, I've been doing cruise directing for maybe 3.5 years or so. And, at the end of every cruise, people turn in their comments. And then the GM loves to share those comments with you.
With everybody.
And you get rated and blah, 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 and whatever. And, if there's anything, literally, here's a perfect example. I can't erase this from my memory because it's so, one day I'm sitting at my desk, I'm typing things up, and here comes Francois, the French GM, and he says, he reads to me a comment that has been left, and this is the comment. A male guest, literally wrote, "The cruise director should be fired. She is an idiot. She told us to have a great day and it was raining outside. Absolutely, she should be fired."
Jesus Christ. Heaven forbid a little bit of...
I love this story. So listen, I'm sitting at my desk and I stop typing and I look at the general manager and I go, "Thank you for sharing that with me. Now, what is the point? Is it A, that you want me to not wish people a good day because it's raining, or B, you'd like me to learn how to control the weather? Which is it?"
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I didn't make friends with Francois. And then, well, actually we did later on. But anyway, he said, "I just think you should know how people perceive you." And I was like,
that was a good accent.
"This is how I perceive you."
Oh, you gave him the middle finger. Just like, that's the perception.
Oh wow.
Yo, that's crazy. So Jude, you should have known better. If you're gonna greet people off a ship on a rainy day, the polite response is to tell them to go fuck themselves. Hey, it's raining outside. Hope you have a fucking horrible day.
No, like raining. Normally at this time I would wish you a great day, but
it's raining. So eat shit.
Okay. So So I would get comments all the time, stupid shit like that. And we don't like the way she dresses. She's fat. She's unattractive. We hate her voice. All those things. They would write that about a woman, but they would never write that about a man, no matter how obnoxious. But wait, so they in another department, they were going to trial a position called travel guide, which was a person who worked at a desk 4 hours at a desk during the day and then assisted the shore excursions people. But this person was just there to help folks who didn't want to pay for an excursion or wanted to do something on their own, so that they would have someone to help them with that. So I raised my hand and said, I'd like to try this. And they're like, but you're a cruise director. This doesn't pay as much and blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't care. I said, I'd like to see if it's a good fit for me. And so someone on the inside said, okay, let's give her a try. I did a 6-month contract, which is a really long time. Cruise directing, the longest I did was 5 months. And that was, 2 months too long. But so I did this role. I had the best cabin I ever had.
Oh, nice.
Right? Sad. Nothing special, but the nicest of all of the cabins I had. It was the most functional. It was good. It was in a good spot on the ship. And I sat at my desk. I got to engage with the guests all day long. I would help out the entertainment department when they wanted to do game shows or they needed a person. But I was just Jude, the travel guide, at the desk. And do you know that at every single post-cruise meeting, we had this thing where they would, the system tallied all of the comments, and then it rated by color graph who had the most positive comments, who had the most negative, every single I never got a bad comment. Every single time it was Jude, 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 Jude. Why? Because I was not the cruise director. I was just Jude, the gal at the desk, who was so helpful and so nice and so knowledgeable. I did all the same exact work that I did as a cruise director, but it didn't have the title.
The title changed, yeah.
Yeah. And so I just was like, and then they decided that they didn't want to have that role. They didn't know what to do with it. And so then they pushed me over back. They were changing the cruise director to cruise and travel director, doing this whole crazy changeover. Anyway, and they pushed me to that. And I only stayed for another 2 contracts and then I was done.
Got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
So that I knew. That was like my test.
Yeah, kind of feeling out like how much longer you wanted to do this kind of thing and feel it out.
Or, why is that role so, like, why do men why did they get treated so differently in with this title? I was like, just change the title. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bizarre, especially in a performing in a very client-facing role, because I almost feel like the opposite in most other hospitality-based industries is that 9 times out of 10, or at least, and you guys can contradict if you feel otherwise, but I feel like more often than not, in most hospitality industries, most people want to rather deal with a woman than a guy. In most hospitality industries, but it seems like in cruise directing, it seems kind of like the opposite. It seems like it's very much like, hey, we rather have a guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably a faction of people who are like, oh, this is so nice and so different. I couldn't tell you how many millions of times people would say to me, oh, we've been cruising for years and we've never had a female cruise director. This is new.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, let me know how you feel about it at the end. But I just feel like that I have a much thicker skin having been a cruise director, because you have to develop it. Otherwise you'll just be, fetal in your cabin, and they'll be sending you home for,
for a mental health check.
There's been a lot of things that have happened on board ships that relate to mental health, because it is not an environment that supports mental health. It is not an environment that supports physical well-being. Sure. It's, you're not getting the crew, what the crew has to eat. Oh,
I will say that was probably the big takeaway from our conversation a year ago that kind of steered me into the direction of not doing it, is like it is grueling work. And like I think for young people getting into cruise, or like when they think about it, like, oh my God, living on a cruise ship, like on paper or at face value, it sounds really cool. And there's a lot of really exciting things that you do get to do, but it's still a job, and it's grueling work, and it's nonstop work. And it's you're on a ship, you know what I mean? Like you like things you take for granted. Things you take for granted are all of a sudden not really accessible for you while you're there. For like, what's the shortest contract you worked? You're like, I'll just, ballpark.
Like, yeah, no, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's 4 months on, 1 month to 6 weeks off. That's really what it is for cruise directors.
Yeah. So like things like a gym membership that you might be really used to having and hitting up a gym in your free time, like you don't have free time. You got to bake that in.
You've got 45 minutes in the afternoon. Here's what happens. You say to yourself, am I going to the gym? Am I going to eat? Or am I going to take a nap? Do you know which one of those three things wins out 95% of the time?
Straight napping, sister.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Catching up on some Z's.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
this is actually a lot of the reason why I was really excited to bring you on, because I do think that the cruise industry is often very like fantasized or romanticized in people's minds as being this really cool thing. And I remember feeling that talking to you, being like, oh God damn, this is not like some like fucking Disney fairy tale that you just like go in and go experience some shit. Like it's
not the Love Boat.
This ain't Moana up in here. This is freaking Titanic and shit. Like you working. You're trying to just keep that shit floating.
You're in, the people that were on the lowest berths, those folks.
Yeah.
You, the crew, are underneath them. So that's where you.
The people that are in all the people on the Titanic that were in the below deck, you're below them on below deck. You're the first one drowning.
We're the fourth and fifth class.
Jesus. But like it was true. Like when I was performing, like I remember like people would talk about like, yeah, cruise contracts, like those are the ones you really want to get, and it's true. It's just so romanticized as like, oh yeah, you're living on a boat. It's great, and like,
listen, and it okay. I definitely want to for performers on certain cruise lines. Okay, it depends on which cruise line you're on, but. For young performers, I think it's a wonderful way to start honing your craft. Mm-hmm. Okay, because you can go as a performer, they'll teach you 4 shows or 5 shows. And that's once you've got those, you install those 5 shows, and then they're scheduled. Sometimes you do 2 shows during a cruise, sometimes you do 5 shows, but once you've done all of the shows in a cruise, you're done.
Nice.
Or some lines require that the performers do other jobs on board. Like if you're at Disney is like they know their product so well. I think what they do on board is pretty amazing. But there's no we've already performed, so we can go off in port and do everything that we want to do all day long, every day. But there are some lines that allow that. So if you happen to be on one of those lines and you're a dancer or a singer dancer, it's a pretty sweet gig if you're doing 4 or 5 months in the Mediterranean.
So there's definitely an avenue that you can pursue where it's a little less grueling, depending on the cruise line.
Absolutely. Yes, as a performer, but that's it. That is the only role on board outside of the cruise consultant, and that's it. Those are the only roles that have that kind of freedom to get to go into port and do. I mean, the rest that romanticized thing of look, these crew members are posting their pictures when they're in. Oh look, they're in Sicily. I'm going to tell you what they did. They ran off that boat after the safety drill, and they had 32 minutes, and they took 4 pictures and grabbed a pretzel on the street and came back to work.
Nice. It's all fake. Really classic social media.
Sorry.
This is kind of the whole point of the podcast is we want that real feel of what it's like to work in these industries. That way people aren't setting themselves up to fail if they go down these avenues and are like, oh my God, this sucks.
I mean, I came into it in a weird way. Most people work their way up. especially in the entertainment department. They start out as a host. You know, if you're working on a line like Royal Caribbean, where there are 6,000 passengers, you have a huge entertainment department, and those kinds of ships, the cruise director ends up functioning much more as a back of house manager. On the lines that I was on, it was front of house, back of house, all over the house.
Under the house, just on top of the house. You the house.
The house.
Damn. I just want to hear about some of the most unforgettable moments that you've had out at sea. I mean, I've heard a couple stories right now you've been going on about, so I want to hear some more.
We want those no filter stories, Jude. Give us the nitty gritty.
God. Like, okay. All right. So early on, when I was on the premium ship, we were a bigger department. I used to have to keep a spreadsheet of all the musicians and all the performers in my department. And I literally had a spreadsheet that had connections. So whoever was sleeping with whoever, I had to connect it on my spreadsheet so I would know where to call if I needed to get in touch with. Oh my God, it would change like every 5 minutes.
You had a who's banging who spreadsheet?
Yeah, of course. That's my job.
Of course. Of course.
Just normal, yeah.
I have to know where people are sleeping. I mean, literally.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really.
Hey, Johnny, we're looking for Carol. Have you seen?
God.
Heard you were boinking last week. You still doing that? Where are we at?
You know what? No. A bed hopping bonanza. If you're on the ship, you are. Listen, it is a whirlpool of people are having a good time, and
I mean, what happens at sea stays at sea. I suppose.
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, like literally, people lead double lives. You know, they're married with a family at home, and on the ship, they're a single guy or gal. And some of them are really honest about it, which I totally appreciated.
Yeah, might as well just be upfront about it. Being like, hey, be upfront.
Yeah, but like there is a sock for every shoe. That's what I'm gonna say, or maybe a couple of socks for
one shoe.
Yeah. Anyway, the most eventful things. Unfortunately, the most eventful things that I experienced at sea were for the most part were safety related. This was really funny. In hindsight, it's funny. It's always a fire alarm goes off at 2 a.m. There's just no other time that you can possibly have a fire alarm. It's just got to be then.
Got to be.
And I was on that ship. I was like 4 decks below navigation, which is stupid when your safety job is to go to the navigation deck in an emergency and be there to be the communicator, right? Okay, so it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and the fire alarm goes, and you rush to put on some sweatpants and like open your eyes, but when you hear it, your heart starts racing. You can't take the elevator, so I'm flying up the stairs, right? I get to the deck, and I've been in a few of them already that were not they were just minimal, but this was a real fire. This was an incinerator fire, and that can be dangerous. So I get up to the bridge, and when it's nighttime, a bridge, the navigation deck, is completely dark, with the exception of the instrumentation. It's super interesting, and kind of eerie and beautiful, but and it's dead silent except for all the alarms that are going off on all of the equipment on the. I mean, it's like being in the cockpit, only it's panoramic. Okay, and so we have a captain who is terrible on the microphone. I mean, the worst. Like you can't understand like the 2-letter words that come out of his mouth. Nothing. It's just garbled mess, and he knows it, right? And I come up there, I'm through the door, and he grabs me. He grabs me, and he says, he says, "You have to do the announcements, all of them." And I was like, okay. Because we're trained to do specific announcements, but we're not trained to just off the cuff talk about a fire event that's happening. And so he said, you've got to go on and you've got to tell them there is a fire and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. And it's dark. I'm trying to jot down notes in my notebook and I can't see anything. And finally I just went, okay, Jude, you know what to do. Bong, bong, bong. And I'm like, this is your cruise director, Jude. We're very sorry for interrupting you. As you can hear, the fire alarms are sounding, and we are here to let you know that there is smoke detected in a certain area below deck, and that our fire teams are on site. They are investigating. We are going to keep you updated, blah, 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 whatever it was. Like, it just came out of me. It was like it came from through the floor, through me and out, because I had no idea what I was supposed to be saying. And this captain is like 2 inches from my face. And I'm like, get away from me. Like, you're weirding me out.
Personal
and
space.
He's breathing into your ear.
He's like mouth breathing over my announcement. And I'm just like, and I looked at him and he was like, I don't know how you do that. And I was like, well, you need to be figuring that shit out, sir, because you have a lot of stripes on your shirt and I should not be making that announcement. And it happened to me many more times where I was asked to do announcements that I should not have been asked to do. And in the back, of my mind, I have to say to myself, just remember, Jude, it's a compliment. They're giving you a compliment because they know that you're clear and people can hear you and they understand you and whatever. Yeah. So that those kinds of things are really like we had to go and rescue some smugglers in the Caribbean once.
Dude,
that was super.
Some Caribbean smugglers? Yeah. That's lit.
Yeah, Caribbean smugglers, some drug smugglers. And, maritime law is such that when there is a distress call or there's something happening to a boat anywhere, once the Coast Guard or whatever the jurisdiction is, once they've been alerted, they send out a signal, and whatever ship is closest to wherever the incident is required by maritime law to go and retrieve or help or do whatever. So we are called, and literally it's 2 guys in like a fishing motorboat, right? Like with one little, Evinrude propeller.
Before you continue, are you about to tell me about a time you fought pirates?
I am the captain now.
Pirates, these were pirates, but they I'm sorry, they didn't have any guns that I'm aware of.
Oh, lame. I was like, dude, Jude fighting pirates in the Caribbean? That's lit.
Can you imagine? I'd be like, I just punch him.
Yeah, straight up.
I'm the cruise director. Yeah. Boom.
Get off my ship. Boom. Knockout. Anyway, continue.
No. That one, and when we did, I have been witness. Oh God, these are the worst. When you have to have an emergency evacuation at sea and the helicopter comes. So a lot of people think that you've got that big space on the bow of the ship, that's where the helicopters land. No, the helicopters do not land. They do not. They hover and they drop a guy down with a basket, and he comes down on a rope and lands on the bow, and then they pick up the patient and then they basket them up. Oh my God, it is the most frightening thing to watch. And if it's, even if it's the middle of the day in smooth seas, it's really scary. I don't know if any of you have been close to a helicopter, that sound and that propeller and the wind that it makes. I mean, it's just freaky. But we had one serious one at night, and it was really rough seas. So I'm on the navigation deck because I'm having to make announcements. And the other thing is that you have to clear all the dipshits out of the way because they want to go. And take. Martha, let's go and get a picture of the helicopter.
We didn't know we were getting a helicopter ride on this cruise.
Fucking kidding me?
Fucking Martha, Jesus.
Gosh.
We can post it on our Facebook page. Oh, the neighbors will be so excited.
You got to clear the dipshits out.
You don't get a med evac at sea unless somebody is nearing death, and we think we can save them. Okay, so we have a morgue on board. People die on the ship. Oh God, I shouldn't talk about this, but people die on the ship all the time.
No, that's just real. That's just real.
I don't think I've ever. I probably have only had 10 cruises in my whole career where someone didn't die.
Oh shit! Only 10 where someone didn't die. I was sorry. I was expecting the opposite. Holy shit!
Yep, no,
people be dropping like flies.
Damn, Martha.
All the time.
Maybe Martha shouldn't have got so damn close to that helicopter. She damn near had a heart attack. God damn, Martha. Jesus.
I mean, it was but like you're trying to. Oh my God, the dumb things people do and say. Oh, where do you guys sleep? They'll say to a crew member, "So, do you sleep on the ship?"
No, we take the lifeboat over to the nearest Hyatt lodge, and we just we crash out the hotel at sea. Jesus,
I cannot even. I'm just like, oh, people, come on. But yeah, so there have been some crazy moments, and all of that. This something that for me, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but. For me, I like to learn. I'm curious by nature. So I like to learn things. And I like every job. I like to be able to kind of look at it and say, I learned a lot. There is no other arena that I've worked in where I've learned so much. I've learned so much about people, about how people behave in certain situations, about how people behave in general. I've also learned that I never trusted myself as a performer, even when words were written for me. That's one thing. But I never trusted that I could handle it myself, that I could step onto a stage at any given moment, be handed a microphone and go. I didn't have to think about it. I don't have to try to make things up. Somehow I learned that about myself. I learned that I had that skill. And now that skill comes in handy in other ways. I gained a lot of confidence out there. And that there was a lot of heartache and a lot of hard work and a lot of long days and some exhausting things about working at sea, but there were some great things. So,
I was going to say that too. Like, I'm a firm believer there's no such thing as a bad experience as long as you have a good story and you felt like you learned something. So it seems like the skills you learned on the ship at least kind of set you up. I feel like at least became applicable for what you kind of would later on do and stuff. And if you could learn resilience out at sea, I imagine you're pretty damn resilient at any point in your life if you've done it at sea.
Yeah, I think working in an environment too that no 2 days are the same. You can make a plan, but that plan is going to go sideways. You can be damn sure that it's going to go sideways on a ship. So you have to learn how to deal with that. And that is a life skill. That's not a work skill. It's a life skill because life goes sideways all the time.
Yeah.
And how we react to it, do we get paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
Do we get thrown out of whack? Do we get into our shell? What do we do? So the more you have to do it and the more it's not something until you start doing it a lot and you start having to just kind of bob and weave with it, you don't know how you're going to react. And that is if somebody could teach people how to do that.
Yeah, package that up and sell it.
Yeah.
So I know, you've been, you've done this for a while in the past. Now, over the time from, let's say, when you first done it to the last day, has there been much of a change in like the culture of like cruise ships and how things are brought up and done on there overall?
So I started in 2014 and I went all the way. I took a break during the pandemic like everyone did. But I went through 2024. So, I mean, I 7.5 years really in the chair. It's a yes and a no answer. And I hate those because I think they suck. It seems like a cop-out. Simple administrative things are much better now because the amount of paper that is used on a ship, it's shocking. You would not believe it. That is starting to, they are starting to get conscientious and conscious of the environment and what the impact is. That is a place where there's been a lot of change on the engineering side in ships. They are really, really, really doing a lot of great work in making these ships have a much smaller footprint. And, I think all of the lines are aware and are working towards keeping that, just keeping the sea safe. There are incredibly strict rules at sea about what can go into the water and what cannot go into the water. And on board, it's really funny. I'm going to flip for just a second. When we hit the pandemic and there was all of that horrible, publicity about being on a cruise ship was the most dangerous thing in the world. They wouldn't let ships dock. All of this bullshit. I was like, that is ridiculous. You cannot imagine the cleaning protocols that we have to go through on a daily basis. Not only that, but we're inspected by everyone all the time. There are constantly people on board inspecting us, and they are rigorous. Okay. So it's not like your burger joint down the street.
Yeah. It ain't Mickey D's where, you have Kyle who wipes his ass and then touches your fries.
I've had full-on arguments with people, and they're like, "No, it's nasty. All those people." I'm like, "Dude, I would lick the banisters every day, and I never."
I mean, I've been on two cruises. I've been on two cruises, and I will say that, like, both times I've been on them, like, it's not even just the cleanliness of, like, the surfaces and the staff, but, like, they really push cleanliness amongst the people on the ship too. Like, before you eat every meal, there's like the few that I've been on have had like hand washing stations before you even get to the cafe area, and they like kind of force you to wash your hands and do all that stuff before going anywhere. Like, it's probably the cleanest experience I've honestly ever had has been the two times I've been on a cruise ship.
I mean, I would have felt better being on a ship during the initial days of the pandemic. And I watched the documentary about the ship that had, I think it was 74 guests. I was like, out of 3,000, that's pretty damn good that they kept it,
isolated that much.
I guess it's crazy. Like, people are stupid. Anyway,
it's people who don't know because like at face value, it does sound like a cruise would be a dirty place to be during a pandemic, but like it's like and like you've never been on one. Maybe don't talk about something you don't really understand.
I just want to like go on record as saying the regulations for the cleanliness and the safety of a ship, they are strict and they are stringent. And, I always felt really safe and really comfortable with it. But yeah, so just to lightly tap on that question though, yes, I think in the technical portion of ships and what they're doing, there have been big strides in that 10-year period. I think some of the other things in HR and in finding how to merge the ideas that the corporate folks think are going to work and what really happens on a ship. Those are two very different things. I love it. Corporate comes at you with a spreadsheet. Yeah, you can do this and this and this, and you've got 5 minutes left. And in that 5 minutes, you can do this. And I'm like, you people are, what? People who have never stepped foot on a ship are going to tell us how to, a blanket approach for running a cruise.
I will say it's probably one of my biggest pet peeves, and this is true about every industry. It's like when data manipulates decision making without consulting the people who are actually dealing with people is so interesting to me, because you hear that from a corporate level in a lot of businesses where it's like the metrics say this, so we should do this, and it's like, okay, yeah, but like dealing with physical people in real time isn't as smooth as whatever metrics you're looking at are making it seem.
Yeah, I've dealt with that a lot in the restaurant industry. Like,
Yeah.
hey, this is what's going to be good on paper. This has to happen. And you're like, there's no way we're going to be able to do this.
Physically, this is
Like,
impossible.
That's right. It's physically impossible. And those metrics that they're looking at, you can manipulate data all day long.
Oh my God, I know.
It drives me nuts. I'm like, I ask my consultant friends, what do you do? And they give me this bullshit answer. And I'm like, okay, so you're manipulating the data to reflect what you want to tell these people.
But my final question, and I like to throw in a financial based question because I think how you get paid in these industries is really important. But like you don't get paid the standard way being a cruise director as you do in a normal job. So can you kind of talk about a little bit of like what being paid on a cruise ship is like and maybe the pros and cons of that?
Sure. First of all, you are paid through whichever parent company you're working for. If it's NCL or if it's Royal Caribbean or it's Holland America Line or it's there's 8 million cruise lines. So whoever that is. My experience was that we got paid once a month. I think that's pretty standard across the board for everybody. It's a once a month. I was able to do direct deposit because I'm an American. Not all nationalities were able to get direct deposits. Those that didn't were given what they call a Bright Star card. It's like a little Visa card, and their salary was put onto that. And
like
then
when I donate plasma. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, and then they could deposit it to their. They would have to wire it then into their bank accounts. I always thought that was really crappy. In fact, I remember helping a couple of people in South America try to get their stuff into it was a nightmare to try to do it because the other thing about ship life, just a throwback to an earlier question, one of the really difficult things is that the internet is crap. It really is. Now, Starlink has come into the ship world. I will not give my comments about that other than to say that it does appear to be speedier than the other, the internet that the ships were dealing with prior. But even in a best case scenario, when you're out to sea, you're not getting great connection or connectivity. So anyway, you get paid once a month. You are only paid unless you are a navigation officer. That's a different contract. You are only paid, and they have a union, by the way. You're only paid for the time that you're on the ship. That is not, you don't get paid when you're at home on break. So only the days that you are on board are days that you get paid. Something else that I didn't say that I wanted to say earlier, you give up your citizenship when you walk on board as a crew member. You hand your passport off to the crew officer, and you never receive that passport until you are signed off and leaving the ship to go to your transportation at the end of your contract. Once you are on board as a crew member, you are a citizen of the ship, and you really don't have. Yeah, it's
interesting.
Weird.
Is there a reason for that? Since we're kind of on it, like, is it like what benefit does that have? If you don't know, that's fine too.
It doesn't. I think it has to do with the maritime rules again. As a crew member, you fall under the jurisdiction of the ship. They are responsible for you. They are responsible for you in anything that you do, anywhere that you are with the ship. Also, it's also a safeguard because you have a lot of people who jump on ships.
Oh, like gainer off the side to their death. Nice.
No.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like suicide. I'm like, holy shit, damn.
No, you do sometimes, but that's not jumping ship is. Let's say my home country is Indonesia. And I've been working on the ship, or I took a job on the ship so that I could get to Canada and jump off the ship and not come back. And yeah,
you're trying to escape. Got it.
Yeah. Relocation is what it is, and a lot of People do it, and it makes things really, really hard for the rest of the crew because when it happens, they generally those ports just everybody locks down. I have been at a U.S. port and not been allowed to leave the ship, even though I'm a U.S. citizen, because they were not letting anyone off because there had been multiple jumpers. You don't. When you go out there, you're really turning over your rights to the ship. So you're at the mercy. You have to hope that you have a great captain and a great general manager. And sometimes you do. I've had some amazing people. Also, some non-amazings. But so back to the so you're making your salary while you're working, and then when you're off, you're not making any money. It's a great idea if you have nothing that you have to pay for while you're on board, meaning you don't keep an apartment or have a life or have a family or children or expenses that remain.
Anything like kind of tethering you to the mainland a little bit.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, as far as compensation goes,
yeah,
sure, you can save money if you go out there and you don't have to worry about, like, this is why it's great for kids who are coming out of college who, live in their parents' basement and don't have any rent and don't have any. That's great.
Yeah.
$3,000 a month. This is amazing. But for the rest of the world, we know, it's not. So anyway, you do. The other part is that for us in the United States, we have taxes, and they don't take the taxes. They only take out federal. They don't take out state, so you have to pay your own state. They don't take out Social Security. They don't take out Medicare. All of the other things they don't take out. So if you want to pay into those programs while you're working on a ship, then you have to pay into them yourself out of your own salary.
Out of a lump sum come tax season and shit.
Yeah, and really, technically, the best way to do it would be to pay quarterly if you can gauge how many months you're going to be working. Yeah, but it's so honestly, when you look at the hours that you work. And you look at the sort of challenges of it. I mean, for me, honestly, I stopped doing it because it was financially, I can make twice as much on land. In fact, I make 3 times as much now.
Yeah. That's what, to your point, that's why it works so well for young people to who are starting into the work field, because it is true. You don't have a lot of that responsibility and stuff yet. You might still be on your parents' insurance technically, so you don't got to worry about things like that. And you're just pocketing all that money throughout the contract to where you come back to the mainland and you have a pretty good lump sum, which is probably great to have, setting yourself up for the future. But once you start hitting 30s, late 30s, it's stability starts to look a little different, and all of a sudden that huge lump sum at the end of the month is a little less enticing.
Yeah. If you're in management, some lines offer a management bonus at the end of each contract, but not all of them do. There was really a heyday for cruise directors, and it was the 80s and the 90s.
Oh yeah.
Cruise directors. My friend who got me into this, she was a cruise director during more into the heyday, and she was like, "Girl, they'd give us envelopes full of cash at the local jewelers because we would push them, and they would they just walk around and collect their envelopes." I was like,
dude, that's crazy. But Jude, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Do you any questions for us? I guess this is all about you. So if you have no questions for us, we're not that interesting of guys. But I figured if you have any questions for us that we could answer quickly.
I have a question that I want each one of you to answer
Sweet.
In your own turn.
No pressure, gents.
Why this podcast? What brought you to wanting to share this kind of information with the masses?
Go ahead.
I think it's that all 3 of us can relate to it. I think all of us have spent a big chunk of our life being in ruts, right? Whether it's like work or financial or relationships, right? So I think we understand it. And when Xavier came to me and pitched the idea, I was like, oh, I'm definitely in, that's something that I could relate to. I think, going through it, we can give some good advice to people who need the help being in the positions that we were in, So like if I was in something and someone's asking for advice to get out of it, or how did I get through it, or like what were my steps, I can kind of give the advice on it and feel pretty confident about it. And I know there's a lot of people who would like to help. So when I feel like Xavier and Billy are on the same page there and, just want to help people.
Yeah.
How about you, Billy?
Cool.
I had nothing better to do. No, just
Well, and there's that.
no. I mean, like I said, I've been friends with these guys for a while, and then when they brought the idea, I started to get into the podcast of just listening things and just kind of hearing stories and everything. And some videos, like some of the video versions of it I see on YouTube and stuff I'll watch. But when they came to the idea, I was like, this is pretty interesting. It's something different. I am more of a person, I kind of stick in my own comfort zone, but this is kind of stepping out of it a little bit and doing something different.
Nice.
Yeah, and like my kind of story with the project, and I think we may have talked about this last time when I chatted with you in person about cruise directing, was like, a year ago I was living my dream job and I was probably the most miserable I ever was. And, I consider myself someone who is constantly unsatisfied with life, not because my life isn't good, but because like I get bored really easily. And the need and desire to continue to challenge myself has just kind of always been something about me. And between that and being a huge skeptic of higher education, like these guys know and stuff, but like I dropped out of college and I found a pretty have been able to carve out a pretty decent name for myself regardless. And it's just such a contradiction to what we were told growing up as far as what you need to be successful. And I thought, if I can get myself out of a rut, multiple ruts throughout the last 10 years, because I'm about to be 30 here next month. If I can get myself out of so many ruts out of the last 10 years and not have gone through this the traditional way, then that means it's possible. And that people putting themselves into positions where they're struggling through college because they feel that's the only way. It's like sometimes they just need to be told, hey, there is another way out of this that will lead to your success just as much as any other avenue. You don't have to do this one way of doing it. And if we can expedite the process that you're miserable with your life to where we're getting you into something that you didn't expect, right? One of my favorite things is, and a lot of the reason why is because I knew you were going to give us a really honest opinion of your life as a cruise director and the good, the bad, the whatever. Yeah. And people can decide from themselves in an honest fashion without being manipulated by businesses as far as like, hey, is that something that I truly want to experience now that I know the good, the bad, all sides of it? That's something I feel like I was missing a lot when I would apply for jobs, is people are always going to romanticize their industry because they need the people. They're going to tell you all the good. This is great. This is great. This is great. But no one's going to be honest with you and be like, hey, you know what? There's some days that are going to fucking suck. And this is what it looks like. And you can decide for yourself. So that's kind of why the podcast exists now, or like why I kind of came to these guys with the ideas. Like, I want to cut the bullshit out. I want you to find something that makes you happy, and if we can make that process quicker for you by interviewing these people who work in these different fields and are successful in these fields, then I feel like we have an obligation to do that. Plus, I find what other people do so much more interesting than what I do. So I can just talk about other people's lives and jobs all fucking day. It's like, I love that.
I think in context of how you find your working life, I mean, at the end of the day, life experience counts for so much more than anything any classroom has ever offered me. And I'm not knocking education. Listen, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd go back to school and, I'd take up psychology because I'm so interested in what makes people tick. But the idea that you can only achieve something tangible if you go hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt and somebody hands you a piece of fucking paper with a signature on it is ludicrous. But that's insane. What we are all brainwashed. We are all conditioned to believe that we're not. I have gone for years and years and years thinking I'm not good enough. I'm an imposter because I don't have that. I don't have that degree. I don't have a master's. I don't have any of that stuff. I didn't get to go to a conservatory program because again, I didn't, win the lottery in life.
Yeah.
I got chosen to go to the Royal National Theatre in London and study Shakespeare, which would have been my dream. But guess what? I couldn't afford it. So I didn't get to go, even though I was given a spot.
Yeah.
Tough luck. am I going to, like, whatever. This is real life, and real life does not have a playbook, and it doesn't work the same way for everyone. And I think that we, again, are conditioned by everything is telling us, all the marketing, all the advertising, it's telling us, you've got to do this, you've got to have this, blah, 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 blah. That's a bigger conversation for us to have someday about what this country does to young people and to our minds about, trying to condition us into doing things. But we're all being told those things. And until someone turns around and starts speaking a different narrative, the fish swim in the direction. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
This is great.
And
it's really awesome.
No, and I'm glad you think so. That kind of seems like the perception from a lot of people we talk about the project with is like, yeah, it's so funny. It's something that's not really being talked about, is just like how to be successful without any sort of program or, recommitting to years of school and going into $1,000 of debt. It's like, being just honest with people about what to expect from these career fields isn't something that a lot of people are talking about. So we feel really fortunate to be able to talk about it and utilize some of the experience we have from the various industries we've worked in, the various levels of emotional happiness and depression that we've all been in at various points in our 20s, because we've all, like, I like everyone has, but the three of us, like, we've talked about it in length, obviously, in relation to the project, that like the last 10 years, we've had probably some of the most miserable days of our lives, while some of the best also. And to be able to speak on those things and maybe help people along the way is just kind of a nice feeling. Just kind of dope.
Well, I'm going to give you the perspective of, I'm almost 60. So that doesn't change, right? That is an inherent quality in life. You're going to go through, and you're going to have those amazing days, and you're going to have those shit days. And you're going to find out that when you have the shit days, it helps move you towards the things that will make you have more of the great days. And you got to keep looking. I mean, it doesn't, I'm in a pivot at this point because I'm not challenged. I'm not challenged in what I'm doing. I know it, and I have to move on. You have to take the step. That's what you said earlier, the steps.
Yep.
You have to take the step. And sometimes it's scary, but you know what? If all of us keep doing it and keep talking about it, then people who might not have done it will do it.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much there, Jude. That's the last thing I'd like to say, Jude, is if anyone listening had wanted to reach out with you with questions about stuff, is there a way that they can contact you and reach out to you?
Should I give you my email address?
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah, if you're whatever you're comfortable saying on the airways, like, yeah, just shoot your shot.
I'm happy to answer any questions about anything to do with the cruise industry or property management, or how to take a skill set and kind of pivot it into something else or something unexpected. Email me. It's my name, Jude Day. It's JUDEDAY at Yahoo.
Awesome. So yeah, that's how you reach out to Jude if you have any questions about pivoting. Pivoting was kind of the word of the podcast today. But pivoting, always pivoting. Pivot. But on that note, listeners, again, if you have your own story about being in a rut, please email us at outoftherut@yahoo.com. Or if there's an industry that you'd like us to explore, please reach out to us as well. Also, Ron, pitch the Instagram, buddy.
It's just no spaces, all lowercase, Out of the Rut podcast.
Yeah, feel free to DM us on there too. We want to interact with you, our audience, and make sure that we're delivering some top-notch content for you. But this has been another episode of Out of the Rut. I'm Xavier.
Billy.
I'm Ron.
And this was Jude. Say bye, Jude.
Thanks. Bye.